All right, and we are back for the conclusion of my ranking of the Dice Throne characters. This is 1 through 10, starting with 10. If you haven't been keeping up with the list, we have. This is the second time I've done this list. Originally, when I did it, there were only 16 characters. There are now 35, of which I have been ranking, and we have finally come down to the last 10. If you don't know anything about the channel, Dice Throne is my favorite number one game. I love it from its competitive aspects to the cooperative, whether you're doing Dice Throne missions or Dice Throne adventures or even the new Marvel missions. I absolutely love this game, and it is one that I plan on keeping in my collection for quite some time. And I find joy in playing almost all the characters. Now, this is not a strategy of like who statistically hits the hardest or is the best at whatever. This is just based on my favorite characters that I like to play. And yeah, that's it. That's pretty much how I rank them, is which ones are my favorite. That's what it is. Nothing else other than that, just based on what I think is the most fun to play. Now, I do tend to gear towards the more complex characters, but that's not always the case. Some of the simple ones are also high up on my list. So with that being said, let's jump right into the last 10. And we're going to start off with a brand new character from Marvel X-Men, the newest set, and that is going to be Iceman. Now, Iceman is a really unique character and brings in some really cool new features, which is going to be the fact that he has these ice shards that you're going to be collecting in order to enable these glide attacks. So essentially sliding around on ice, and you're going to be using these glides in order to have a second attack in the same offensive role. So if you have these glide tokens that you're going to be building up, right, because you're going to be able to store some of these ice shards, and then you're going to be turning them into glides, and those glides are then going to be connected. So as you look at his player board, he has attacks that are connected to other attacks using these little ice arrows. And when you can spend a glide after you complete one of these attacks, and you're able to then segue into an immediate second attack, which is really cool, really unique to this character, which I think makes him really strong and fun to play. The one thing with him is, with his, what I would say is his weak part, is where he is one that you are going to have to build up to that point, right? So you're going to have to get those ice shards. You're going to have to really focus on managing those well in order to really have that feeling and get to experience what Iceman can be. So if somebody does have a lot of clearing when it comes to getting rid of those, or if you're not actually getting the shards as quickly as you want, or if you're mismanaging them, right, that can be a real vulnerable part of your game, and he can just kind of go out without even being able to really shine, right? So I really like him, and I really appreciate just that new dynamic that comes with Iceman. So he is my number 10. My number 9 is also a brand new character from Marvel X-Men, and this is one I could honestly see going up. He is Wolverine. So going with Wolverine, it's really cool. His strengths are, obviously he has a decent amount of self-healing abilities, but the big thing that makes him shine for me is his rage. So he gains rage to boost his attacks and drawing cards. And when you're able to, and he's going to have these rage cards so that when he rages, he can discard a specific card that is going to do wonders, sometimes coming back into your hand, and you can stack and stack and stack these cards that are specifically going to be intended to be used for when you rage. They're going to add to your attack so he hits like a truck, not to mention some of them can go back into your hand. You might be doing different things. So they're going to have extra effects. And so when you're doing these rages and kind of really beefing him up, right, you can really stack these attacks up for something that's going to be a huge hit. So I really appreciate these new kinds of cards called rage cards in his deck, and that's what they're meant for, is used for when you're boosting him, spending those tokens, and being able to add additional damage for every card that you discard, right? So those are awesome. Not to mention, he also has the status effect of Alpha, which causes them to skip their income phase, which is good as well. So he's pretty simple, but the fact of the matter is where he's going to shine is when you're getting those rage cards and using them effectively for actually spending your rage to increase your attack. And when you can just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and stacking it, it's awesome. So and it helps you draw cards as well, which is great. He does obviously then have issue like there's some different control effects. Those are going to affect him the most, I think, with that. And he has some limited range kind of attacks as well. So he's limited in that regard of what kind of attacks he's doing. So with that being said, Wolverine will be my number 9, but I could definitely see him going up sometime in the future. Really impressed with that one. The next one is an older character who was number 6 on my last ranking, so still holding pretty steady given the number of characters that haven't been added. And this is the Vampire Lord. And this is one that they've actually made some adjustments to the leaflet with just recently, I believe. I could be wrong there, but they did adjust her blood power, and she is from season 2. And so one thing I really like about with the Vampire Lord is managing that blood power, being able to use it optimally to be able to heal, draw cards, remove status effects, being able to increase your damage, right? So just the versatility of that blood power is really great. Not to mention also the mesmerize, where players that are affected with it, they can't gain or inflict those status effect tokens, which can be really great. So you can really kind of hinder what other people are able to do, even if it's hurting you or benefiting themselves. But it's going to take a lot of skill and practice, I think, of managing that blood power. She does also have some life stealing abilities, which is great because not only are you healing yourself, but you're stealing that health away from your opponents. And like I said, again, just that sustainability that mesmerize is going to bring as well. So Vampire Lord is coming in at my number 8. Number 7 is my top. Let me double check and make sure it is the newest character. I guess it's the highest of the new set, which is Marvel X-Men. So this is my favorite from that set, and that is going to be Storm. I really like Storm. It's possible that over time Wolverine will climb up there and overtake Storm, but right now I just love the way that she controls the battlefield with her wind shear and tornadoes, and can use her opponent's dice and be able to get the largest straight, which is awesome. And so she really has those. You're managing a lot of different tokens with her, and she can do quite a bit. With her wind shear, she's able to redirect some damage back to her attackers, and then even being able to take those dice and use them for herself. Granted, you're not going to be able to use those symbols, but I really like that. Also, you're charging these in each of your abilities. You have this chance to charge them and then even overcharge them to where they're going to explode and deal additional damage. And sometimes you can chain some extra overcharging, but just the extra kind of planning out of which abilities do you want to charge and trigger and how they're going to kind of flow together. I really like how that all works together. That is a little bit more complex, and there's a little bit more to manage with her, but I really like just how she can kind of control a lot of what's going on in the game just based on those different abilities, not just her status effect tokens, but just her charging of her abilities that she's got. And who doesn't love to be able to hopefully get like 10 dice and just chuck all of them, right? That's a great feeling to have as you're doing that. So I really enjoy Storm, and that's why she's coming in at my number 7. My number 6, we are going to stick with the Marvel characters for a little bit right here. And this is going to be not my favorite one from Dice Throne Marvel, but is up there. This one is going to be Loki. And I think the biggest thing with Loki is going to be those illusion cards. The fact that when you're attacking and you have that those illusion abilities, and somebody has literally only a 33% chance of being able to hit successfully, right? They're going to have maybe half, maybe none of it, right? It's going to play just that extra manipulation. And I love playing head games and mind games when I'm playing as Loki. It's like, oh, is this the card? Is that the card? You know, I'm over here kind of thing. And so I really like just how he messes with the opponent, even with his bag of tricks. They're always great for him. And then when your opponent gets them, I get to choose the effect that happens to you. And so it's really awesome how he can play that kind of double-edged effects there. He has he has some really great attacks. He can hit pretty decent, but I really think he's going to shine when it comes to just that trickery of those illusions. Also, let's see. Oh yeah, and he's allowed to defend against undefendable with his invisibility as well. So that's pretty awesome. Or no, wait, I'm thinking of somebody. That's a different note. My bad. But anyway, I really like just the trickery that comes with Loki and everything that comes with him. So I'm really excited that he is my number 6. Number 5, we're going to come back to some OG characters and non-IP characters, and that is going to be the Triant at number 5. So the Triant is a level 6 difficulty, and the thing that I really like about this one is he has some pretty decent healing and defense with his seedlings. And I like the fact that you're upgrading these seedlings, turning them into stronger and stronger little companions that you're having, which is awesome. To eventually be able to prevent some negative status effects or add damage. Not to mention, you also have your barbed vine that you're able to do, the wellspring that's going to help as well with healing. He is a little slow, I feel like. He's another one of those I think it's going to take time to build up as you get your seedlings and your little sprouts kind of developed and built up to really be able to be effective. And so making sure that you keep that on your radar and manage those well is going to be important. But I really just like how his character feels. It feels very thematic. I think he has really good defense abilities as well, and not to mention he can pump out some decent damage, especially using his spirits that he's going to be having. So the Triant is going to be my number 5. My number 4 is going to be one that I think is a lot of people's number 1, and I do not blame them whatsoever because it is one that I tend to gravitate to quite a bit as my number 4, and that is going to be the Shadow Thief. I love the Shadow Thief. The big thing with him is it really is managing your combat points, because so many of your abilities and the amount of damage that you deal is going to be based on the combat points you have available to you. And so with that, with you being able to hide in the shadows and avoid any kind of damage, right, that's really awesome. To be able to have the poison and stack the poison, that's a great ability as well. He also has 2 defense, which is awesome. So you have that ability to try and take no damage whatsoever, but then you also have where you're just hitting back, right? So depending on what you're doing, you're either rolling more or less dice, but the focus of what defense you take is also important, right? You're trying to sorry, you're either going to be dealing damage back and imposing poison on your character, or you're really hoping that you can get some invisibility and avoid all the damage, right? So I think he has, again, and I feel like I've said this now 3 or 4 times for a character. It's going to take some time to build up, right? Because you got to get to that 15 CP, and you got to be able to not spend so much of it on the cards because you want to upgrade your abilities, but you also need that CP so that you can deal higher when you're rolling those straights. So it's really important to have that. And it's going to take a little bit of time. So you might be selling off some cards in order to get up there, but you're really going to have to manage those well, and knowing when's the time to spend and when's the time to sell, and that way you can put yourself in a position to where you can really hit hard. But I really like the Shadow Thief. He does awesome. He is my number 4. And just so you know, I don't think I told you this, Triant was my number 3 prior. So the Triant did go down to 5. And then the Shadow Thief was my number 4. So he stayed exactly the same, but he did jump the Triant. And then this takes me to my number 3, who was my number 2. And this is the Cursed Pirate. This is one I think is a very high risk, very high reward when you're playing with them, because the way this one works is that you have these doubloons, and if you run out of doubloons, your character is going to flip to the Cursed Pirate, and you're going to have a whole new set of abilities, but you're also going to be taking damage every single turn as well. And you have to decide how to manage those doubloons and when you want to make that switch, right? Because if you wait too long, right, you might not be able to deal out the damage you need to finish the fight. If you flip too early, you could put yourself in a position, especially if you're going against somebody that has a lot of defensive ability and healing, you might be kind of whittling yourself away a little too early. So there's going to be a lot of kind of timing when it comes to the Cursed Pirate. I really like the powered kegs that you're chucking out there and throwing at people and getting them to explode and dealing that extra damage. Wither is also really awesome, just kind of affecting the value of the dice. The Cursed Doubloons are great, whether they're on you, it's always a good thing, but then if you're also sticking them on others, and then as well as the parlay of like, hey, you're just not allowed to deal any damage to me, right? And so he has great status effects, or she has great status effects. But the big thing is, when do I want to flip and start dealing out huge damage, knowing that I'm also going to be taking quite a bit of damage as that Cursed Pirate. And so that's why the Cursed Pirate is my number 3. My number 2 was my number 1 for the longest time, and that is the Artificer. I really love the Artificer, and for the longest time, this was my go-to character for everything. I played him for Dice Throne Adventures, and I love just being able to build my different robots and being able to help them with my defense and nanites, right? I love stacking the nanites and detonating them on my opponent, and collecting those synths so I could build and get those advanced upgrades for my robots. I thought he had great defense as well as those healing qualities with your robots. Dealt out plenty of damage, especially with the nanites. Loved everything about this character. Again, he could take a little bit of building up when it comes to those robots, but I think you can keep your opponent on their toes as they're managing those nanites and trying to keep them from doing too much damage. But I really like the Artificer. He plays really uniquely in just the way that you're handling and managing those robots. And so he was my number 1 for the longest time. Now he's my number 2. And my number 1 is actually my favorite character from Marvel. Well, obviously it's my favorite from all of Dice Throne, but I was kind of surprised just how much I love this character, because going into Marvel Dice Throne, this was probably the character I was the least interested in when I first heard about them. And she is by far my favorite, and that is the Black Widow. Black Widow is super awesome. I love the fact that she has these covert ops, which allow her to help get those upgrades out onto the board a little bit quicker. And not to mention her passive ability, especially when you upgrade it, being able to add damage to your text based on the number of upgrades you have. So I love being able to upgrade her stuff really quickly and train, and even looking, if I don't have them, I can kind of look through my deck a little bit and rearrange cards, and being able to get those upgrades out more effectively. She has agility, which is great for defense and avoiding damage, and she has the time bombs, which I really like, and being able to speed them up and throwing more and more bombs on them. Which, if I remember, it's like a more powerful keg, but you got like you can roll for it to try and detonate it, and it takes a little bit longer for it to detonate, right? Because it's going to take a couple seconds for it. So I really like everything that she brings to the table. I like how powerful she feels, especially when I'm out there upgrading. I have discounts to upgrade because I'm putting them out for free, right, with those covert ops. It's such a great character. I feel like when I play Black Widow, so long as I can get those upgrades out there, there's no stopping her whatsoever. And I can really keep the pressure on. I have a lot of evading and damage that I'm putting out. And I really like the time bombs as well. And so, yeah, so she shot all the way to my number one. I actually even really like her in the co-op, and using her mythic card is great as well. And so Black Widow was a huge surprise to me, not one that I thought that I was absolutely going to love, but I really like just everything about that character. And so she is my number one character for Dice Throne. So that is going to do it for my top 10 characters of Dice Throne. Please let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know who your top 10 are. Which ones were I right about? Which one was I wrong about? I know I didn't mess up Chi on the last video. Apparently, I messed up somebody's pronouns of being a he, she, whatever. Sorry, I just don't take this kind of stuff. I don't look that. I don't care. But yeah, let me know what you think about the game. Let me know who are you excited about. They're about to come out with the new Outcast, and they just announced that Dice Throne Digital is coming out. So I'm really excited about the future of the game. You also have Slam Throne and all this kind of stuff. So it's very, very exciting future for the Dice Throne IP kind of stuff that's coming out. So please let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments, and we will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.